All right, work sessions are an opportunity for board members to discuss issues informally with staff and invited guests. Board encourages members of the public to attend work sessions and listen to the discussion, but there's generally no opportunity for public comment. Members of the public wishing to address the board are welcome to do so during the board's regularly scheduled meetings. First is the discussion of the formal agenda. You've got a revised agenda, couple of items removed and one added, correct?
Yes, sir. The two removed items are number 11 and 13, which is the annual updates to the strategic plan and the proposed fee schedule. And we will be bringing both of those back in July. And the addition is a proclamation resolution to support job corps. So, and that this is a similar resolution proclamation that's being approved and well, considered and approved by other local jurisdictions. So
Yeah.
it was created as kind of a master proclamation. So
Yeah, they've done a lot of that.
and then, Chair, if I can just add, I know there was a couple questions about the Marine Patrol, and so the sheriff's here, maybe as part of the agenda review, he could just.
Sure, absolutely.
So, yeah, come on in.
Welcome, Sheriff.
You can, I can make one.
We can get you a placard.
Okay, you want me to just give a rundown or do you have a specific question? What would be most helpful?
Why don't you, if you could start with just an overview of how the program works and the funding.
Okay,
Of the Marine Patrol.
So we're talking about this as the first item on the workshop.
We're just talking about this as part of the agenda review. That's
Oh.
when the board can ask questions about the agenda. And since we know that there's a question about the Marine Patrol, we thought we would just,
Yeah, I hadn't heard the question.
yeah,
so.
so.
so the Oregon State Marine Board primarily contracts with Sheriff's Office is to provide recreational boat safety. And historically, they paid most of the cost of that program. And the rural law enforcement district usually picks up the balance. Over time, recreational boat registrations have been decreasing. So Marine Board funding has been sliding down over time. And in response to that, we went to 1.5 FTE for that program with the thought that we'd have a deputy half a year work Marine Patrol in the summer and half a year on patrol, which is actually kind of backwards to what our needs are because people try to take vacation in the summers. We actually really need that person on patrol. So then more recently, we haven't filled that half FTE because we don't have half a person laying around, and it's more important to cover the patrol shifts. And the Marine Board, as they continued to feel these financial pressures, looked at the counties that weren't expending fully their contract, that being us being one of them. So then they gave us a new allotment, those counties that weren't spending the full thing. So we decided we were just going to go to one full-time Marine Patrol deputy. We're supplementing with the rural law. I think it's $26,000 a year to keep that program going. More recently, since we got the original budget projections from the Marine Board, the federal Coast Guard Marine dollars that came to the Marine Board for funding these programs has been eliminated because the state can't certify the grant because of our sanctuary status. So all the federal dollars, so that's another 30% of the Marine Board's total budget. So that really was the nail in the coffin that we're going to do one FTE.
So that's okay, because that was one of my questions was what federal money was this? It's Coast Guard money?
Coast Guard money.
Wow. And do we have any trouble getting that money before the start of the federal fiscal year? I mean, when does that money come to us?
It's later. I think it's October.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the Marine Board, kind of look at their numbers, knowing they're not going to get that. And so they based our budget based on what we'll be getting.
So you will have one full-time deputy doing 12 months a year
Yes.
of Marine work.
Yes.
Interesting. Okay. And it does not include any commercial work, does it?
No.
It's only recreational boating because
Right.
that's all
Right.
all the Marine Board does.
Yeah.
Okay. And does that, I'm assuming, however, that there are times of the year that are busier than
Yes. Yeah, and the way we tackle that is because it's really not safe to often send one deputy out in a boat by himself. You know, rough seas and things like that, and it's hard to run a boat and talk to someone while you're out there or to tow another vessel. So what we do is we work really closely with the Coast Guard, ironically, the boarding team. So their marine law enforcement folks do not have their own boats. So they ride with us a lot. And then that way we have both the state and federal law enforcement authority when we're on the water.
Good, good. Okay, so that could work out actually pretty good.
Yeah, we've had that relationship with them for years.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so it's a 12-month,
Yeah, 12 months a year.
okay. So during the winter, what kinds of things do they pay attention to?
Well, there is obviously a lot less boaters, so it's looking at registrations, derelict vessels. We're in the middle of cleaning up 4 sunken or abandoned boats right now. He's been working on a grant to clean up I'll call it a dump, but a site where several vessels and other structures have sunk in blind slough. So
Oh,
he's kind of working on, it's both an environmental hazard as well as a hazard to navigation.
okay, thank you. Well, that makes me feel a little worse than a little better.
Right.
No, I was, you and I have talked about this whole issue before. And I had no idea that there was this partnership with the Coast Guard. I had no idea. And so where do you get those folks? I mean, what's their?
So there's a marine law enforcement team, boarding team. Yeah. And
where are they here? I mean.
they're at Warrenton.
They're at
Yeah,
the airport? Oh, okay,
Yeah.
but they're, oh, interesting. I didn't realize that they were.
Yeah, they either have to catch a ride with Cape D, or sometimes they'll catch a ride on one of the contracted vessels to go inspect ships and things like that. Yeah,
Okay,
one of the launch services.
yeah, but they do commercial work too, don't they?
They do.
Yeah.
But when it's busy and it's primarily recreational boaters, which in the summer causes a lot of calls for us,
Sure,
they're out there with us
okay,
in addition to their other duties.
two.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Sorry to have so many questions. I was just, I mean, Don and I wound up talking about this for a long time today. Because it's just so aggravating, and now I'm even more angry at the federal funds issue. I mean, that's just so absurd.
Well, another piece of absurdity, I'd have to double check the numbers, but this is gonna be really close. The Marine Board allocates about $1.5 million, which would be enough to make all the counties whole to the Oregon State Police, and I think it's only 1.5 FTE.
Mhm.
Yeah, so
That's a highly paid OSB.
Well,
yeah. Whoa,
Thank you, Sheriff. Appreciate the update. Any other questions for the sheriff?
thank you.
Okay, thanks.
thanks, man.
Anything else that we need to talk about for the agenda? I mean, I know there's an update with Tongue Point. Are we gonna talk about that during the meeting, or that they did get the injunction on the job? Court?
Yeah, we can talk about that. I was also gonna add to the work session agenda a little time for Tracy to come up and talk about the Cannon Beach
Yeah,
Good.
voting issue. So that, but I think from the work session agenda, I just think we'll just add Tracy to the end after the industrial revolving fund.
okay.
And then we can talk about that point share whenever you like. So.
Okay, sounds good. Do we have anything else that we want to discuss about the agenda? And then we have the work session and agenda items through August, and you can see that we do have the July 2nd work session canceled. And then, of course, we don't have much built out through July, actually. Any questions on that? Okay. All right, let's go ahead into the legislative update, Amanda Rapichak.
Hello.
Legislative policy analyst, right?
Board, yes. Amanda Rockenschak, Management Policy Analyst. So just a quick update We're coordinating with CFM for an end of session presentation to your board. So hopefully that will take place either next month or early August. And they're going to try to make it out here in person. So we'll be scheduling that and get that on the agenda calendar soon. I do have some unfortunate news about the TLT bill. There was a hearing on Monday and that continued into Tuesday. But unfortunately, work session, which would have had to be scheduled today, not necessarily because of a deadline, but in terms of timeline and with the session wrapping up, a work session was not scheduled. And so there wasn't an opportunity to pass it out of committee. And we're under the impression that the Senate Committee on Finance and Revenue, where it's held right now, is not expected to meet again. And so at that point, the bill is likely dead. That being said, this doesn't mean that the work is over. We've made really significant progress this session, and we're going to continue to work with CFM and our local government partners to see what comes ahead in terms of next steps. And there's been a lot of conversation about the tourism industry and Orla wanting to continue these discussions. And so we are going to try to do that. And so we will see how that goes.
Yeah. Well, I was really pleased that we did have Mayor Wright and others that testified, Commissioner Thompson on behalf of AOC. But I think it's disingenuous to say that the industry wants to have these discussions, because we've been trying to have these discussions and we have them. And they're just opposed to anything. I mean, they're entitled, I think, to that money, they think, and there's just no movement. And so it's going to take, us continuing to move forward. And I think we have this
July 23rd.
yeah, and so we will increase the rate. I mean, that's
When-
really our only option at this point, since we didn't get the flexibility that we desperately needed. That we're going to have to increase the rate, and that's something that I'm sure the industry will be opposed to as well. But
Yeah, and it sounded like from Orla's testimony too, that they questioned, some of the local governments had provided examples of tourism adjacent expenses, but that weren't allowed within the current TLT formula for the 70% when it comes to tourism promotion or tourism related facility. And then in their testimony, they said, actually, you can spend it on X, Y, and Z. And so
Yeah,
there
so
seems to be there's misinformation in terms of what they realize that local governments can actually spend the funds on.
Yeah. There's a lot of muddying of the waters there at the
Yeah.
end, and certainly the percentage all got thrown around there too, that mixing the 2003, pre-2003 TLTs with post 2003 and saying, oh, well, we're not getting our 70% because I mean, you're still getting 60%, 50%. I mean, in a lot of these cases, and certainly in Clatsop County, you're receiving the bulk of it. So
Yeah, I think there's been a desire to see that pre-2003 money through the same lens as the post-2003 money, and it is different.
Yeah.
The 2003, prior to 2003, the transit lodging tax was to basically backfill general fund impacts, and it could be to tourism, could be to a lot of things. I want to say Clatsop County is a little bit unique because our pre-2003, none of it was countywide.
yeah,
And none of it was paid by any Orla lodging facility because we don't have any in the unincorporated areas. So literally the pre-2003, Orla paid nothing, no county taxes within Clatsop County. The first time that they really started paying is in 2018 when we added the 1 cent countywide. So that's the first time that any of the Orla lodging facilities started to pay that county anything for the impacts of tourism, and that's 1 cent.
Yeah.
If you look at some of the countywide rates of other counties, they're 3 to 5% because there are countywide impacts that need to be paid for. And because we do the jail, we do the justice system, the cities don't do that. And so literally before 2018, they paid zero, which I made that point in the small work group discussions. But that's why for me, we did the right thing, which was to try to
Yep.
get them to let us spend what's already collected differently first. But we've already had the first hearing. The second one is scheduled for July 23rd. We'll have the second hearing, and staff's recommendation will be what it was in the first hearing, which is to increase the countywide by 2 cents.
When is Sunny done?
Sunday
29th.
is, but they're-
Is the constitutional signing day is Sunday,
Yes.
yes, it's Sunday.
but it's
They're
likely.
trying to get out early.
By, yeah, maybe Thursday or sorry, not Thursday, that's tomorrow.
That's on Friday.
Friday.
So what is the hearing on the 23rd that you?
Our hearing.
Our
We've
hearing-
already had the first hearing on.
We already had the first hearing
On our.
on our
Yes.
ordinance, and
County.
we'll have the second hearing on the 23rd, and we scheduled it. We scheduled it to occur after the legislative session ended, because we didn't know what might have come out of the legislative process.
Yeah.
And we were hopeful that they would give us
It was a
some of the
backup.
flexibility that we were asking for, because then the recommendation would have changed. So, but that didn't happen.
Well, again, I really appreciate your efforts, county manager, going down there several times, being a part of these small work groups and, getting it to where it got. And Amanda, you tracked it very well and appreciated your comments that I got to read yesterday because I thought it addressed a lot of the misconceptions that have been out there.
It's been a team effort, and I think, Sheriff, so many folks have been involved, and we've made huge strides. This is not gonna go away. There are 36 counties and however many cities, 1,000 or whatever, that want to see something change. And maybe Orla will be strategic about it next time, really focus on the counties that have
Yeah.
the real impact and actually support that. So, but yeah, so we will see, but we'll be back to the board talking about TLT on the 23rd.
The A&T funding bill, the CAFA bill, so that didn't make it through this session, but there is an informational meeting scheduled for tomorrow at 8:30 a.m. And that is so the proponents that have been working on that bill, although it's not moving forward this session, they feel really good kind of about the progress that's been made and optimistic about it moving forward in the short session. So kind of the informational hearing tomorrow or informational meeting tomorrow, as I understand it, is just to kind of like close the progress that has been made this session. And so to get a sense of where things are going to be approached coming into the short session. And then the transportation funding bill, as I'm sure you've read about, lots of political drama that's happening there, and it's really unclear whether they're going to have the votes needed to get it across the finish line. There is a hearing and work session scheduled for tomorrow at 3:30 p.m. and so it might get amended again, but a lot of the same content is still there. There's just kind of like these little tweaks that are happening. And then just last, I wanted to point out one of the budget bills having to do with lottery bond authorization. What passed out of Ways and Means, it included 10 million for the levy project grant fund. And then I saw that it also included 6 million for the Columbia Memorial Hospital expansion.
We're keeping our fingers crossed.
Wow.
Don't want to jinx it, but yes, it's fantastic.
Who's
Fantastic.
doing that?
Who's doing what?
Who got those additions? Our representatives?
Yeah, they were very, very instrumental in it. Yeah.
So part of that was like, when the other, I mean, it didn't go right into that bill, but the budget bill, and there were hearings, and then they came and they were at the Liberty Theater. There was a lot of testimony about that project, so that
Yeah,
was.
this was a concerted effort to try to, at first, match the brick grant.
Yeah.
And then we continued on after the brick cancellation, with just a straight out funding request. And so
Yeah.
we're very encouraged to see that we're included on the list.
That's one.
And the programming change bill does incorporate that language that the state kind of flagged that they were concerned about, in terms of making sure municipalities are eligible for the levy grant. So that is a part of that.
Yeah, that was a good catch to make sure that that was tweaked.
So that's so where will that money go? Does that mean that we won't get it,
Which one?
the levy?
So we're eligible like anyone else to apply for
It's a
it.
good-
It's a grant program and the city of Warrenton has taken advantage of it in previous years to the tune of about 150,000 for internal drainage study. That's necessary for certification. But I think they are positioned to do maybe a geotechnical study at this point, and they'll probably apply for some of that funding.
Oh, good.
And
there is
certainly
an
the county,
oversight.
it's anybody, that has levy can apply.
There was an oversight and municipalities were taken out of the eligible
Right.
jurisdictions. And so we were working with
Correct it.
with the
Thank you.
coalition to just correct it so that
Okay.
municipalities were eligible.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, good, that'll help.
Does anybody have any questions about any other?
No, great work by everybody on the team to advance these needs across the county and these projects. I think it's just fantastic that we did make the progress that we did. I'd love to have seen a few of like the homeowners association.
It was this kind of a session
A few of the other-
for us, so we were feeling good, and we were feeling not so good.
It'll be nice to get off the roller coaster.
Yeah,
Well, it'll
But-
start again in
Yeah.
the fall.
but it's nice to have a presence in Salem. I mean, we really are driving a lot of these
People
bills
know who
that we
are,
never used to.
so, for real.
That's really impressive. Great job.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, job, Amanda.
Next is the Industrial Revolving Fund on page 4.
Thank you, Chuck Wheeler, members of the board. This is more just a quick overview of the Industrial Revolving Fund. This fund was created by the board in 2000, and it takes proceeds from the sale or lease of county land zoned for industrial use, sets those monies aside, and then restricts those monies to be used for certain purposes which are related to industrial development. So I kind of provided an overview of what it is. There's actually a lot of different activities that would be compliant with the statutes, and certainly we know that there will be some requests as we move forward for access to this money. There is currently, and there will be some additional industrial developments. Obviously, North Coast Business Park is in the pre-development stage, and there will be some development there. We haven't had any requests. Town Point is an ongoing development. We have the Westport Ferry Road, which serves an industrial area and will remove industrial vehicles off of residential roads. We have other public sector entities, the port, and it's really their airport industrial park is obviously in the works. And so there's $4.3 million that's currently sitting in this account. And again, that's from the proceeds of various properties. The largest recently is the 1.12 million from the sale of the North Coast Business Park. But, beyond this, I just want to make sure that the board doesn't have any other expectations or desires as we get these, because we don't have kind of a master plan, investment strategy, because we don't know, because these are usually going to private entities most commonly. It could go to public entities like the county for the Westport Ferry Road. Could go to other economic development related to industrial infrastructure activities. So I just wanted to let the board know that there's a pot of money that has some restrictions that create the box that we will have to really navigate. At this point, if somebody came to us, we would approach it like we did the port and have them develop a staff report or a request that talks about what their plans are, what they're doing, how this money will basically help leverage other investments, because this money is not going to be adequate to do any one thing. It'll be a small portion of a larger project. You know, we can certainly ask for, you know, job impacts if there are any, or retention. But I just wanted to get it on the radar screen because there will be requests that come. And then if your board had any thoughts about how you might want to see that come to you, then staff can work through that process. So it's just more of a heads up than anything else. But I wanted to give the board some early warning. So,
Thank you.
One of the things that that occurred to me is that, you know, we have our new EOA. I wonder if there's been any comment from staff or any of the folks who sat on that committee about things like this.
well, I think that we do hear from some folks that were involved in the process who have projects themselves that might be something that they would pursue, but it's all in very preliminary stages. Oftentimes, you know, they find ways to finance their projects without this money. But sometimes this could be that kind of critical dollar in that can help get a project done. I think the one project that the county's interested in is the Westport Ferry Road project, because that's going to be vital. Getting these large industrial trucks out of Westport is really important. And it also serves the industrial property right on the river, adjacent to the ferry landing. But you know, Tongue Point is another good example. There was $20 million that was invested in the lift and in the site of public dollars. And at some point, we haven't had any kind of a request, but is it possible that there may be an ask for some additional industrial development down there that will help facilitate maximizing use of the lift? And that's possible. And again, that hasn't been asked. But you know, that was all kind of contemplated as part of the EOP too, is there's certain industries, and the industrial side is where the enterprise zone is already developing jobs and investment. This is just another tool that can help elevate some of those opportunities. So to answer your question, we will be working with staff. We will be working with our network of businesses and governments and figure out what some of those opportunities are. At this point, we don't have anything formal, no formal requests. We do have different entities that have just talked generally about, would this be something that might fit into that bucket? But because we might get something sooner than later, I wanted to just bring some visibility to it, because it is $4.3 million, and we would like to use it for the highest and best purpose, because you know, right now that we don't have industrial properties that are on the sale block, and so it's going to be harder to replenish this 4.3 million as we go forward, because there's just not a lot of industrial zone.
You know, you talked about the port. I know there's aging infrastructure all along the waterfront, but I know Tansy Point too is interested in some work out there.
Yeah, and the actual port investments they're not allowed for the industrial revolving fund, but certainly things like the airport and Tansy Point and some of those could be, we'll have to get some clarification from Business Oregon about what you can what that fine line is. So
Business Oregon is involved in this in some way?
They're not involved in the counties, but the actual statutes and things really come from Business Oregon, and we're in partnership with them all the time, because they're the ones who work with us on the enterprise zone. And there's a nexus between all the economic development things that are going on. They were obviously integral in the $20 million investment in Tugboat. So
Yeah, um, what is the interface? I just, as a planning consultant, I hear from a lot of small businesses that want to locate in industrial areas for things like, I had a guy contact me just a week or so ago, he's a landscaper. And he can't find any place to buy or rent a piece of property that will allow him to store stuff that he uses in his landscape work, which is kind of an interesting thing. So especially in unincorporated areas, I know that that's often a big issue. Is a lot of our unincorporated our businesses that are in the more rural often lack industrial uses, but need them. So I don't know. I mean, I think of, for instance, the businesses in Napa. You know, just it's something that perhaps we could ask our
Gail's back there. I don't know if you want.
Yeah, trying really hard not to listen, but
And get more industrial in.
in unincorporated areas. Yeah.
Changes something.
So just some
Yeah.
stuff, some brainstorming that we could do
Yeah.
maybe to
Well,
really.
I
make
think
this
that is
real.
the core issue, is the availability of industrial land. As we know, that's kind of how the EOP evolved to where it is. It's kind of I use this word a lot, but it's kind of a unicorn when it comes to really EOPs. And part of that was because there isn't a lot of industrial land, which is really what the focus typically is. And so that's something that Gail and I and others we will brainstorm. So
For instance, what is the zoning in our newest industrial or in our newest business park? I've never.
I think it's light industrial.
The whole thing is light industrial?
They did recently rezone it for 20 minutes to be, that type of commercial. I can't remember.
That's what I assume for most. We don't need another Costco.
Most of it is light
all
industrial.
city.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
Well, city of Washington.
yeah,
So that's all.
Yeah, no, I like the approach to spread the wealth, I guess, just as these are not grants that are gonna make the project. These are ones that supplement. And I think we've been judicious in the past about how this money is spent.
Yeah.
We're not trying to build a data center out there for how many millions of dollars in industrial land.
No, I think it's gonna be small tranches that can make a difference.
Yep.
To get a project done.
I agree.
which we know are lacking
Yeah.
in economic development. So that's.
And without definite punishment of it, I think, being, like you said, judicious with it and its application is, the best use of it. Yeah, I agree. Okay, we want to talk about the election in the beach. I know Tracy wanted to talk.
And I'm crazy, hasn't talked about this at all lately.
Yeah.
so-
No, thank you, Commissioners. Dr. Tracy Crevenco. I just wanted to be available to you guys today, answer any questions or concerns that you have regarding the Cannon Beach issue. Bottom line is just like the staff news release was, everything was correct on our side. I did bring a little example to show you, because we're making some changes. So this is what was shown on their webpage and.
Their meeting secretary.
The Secretary of State.
Yes, and that's why people like to go there because it's so pretty
Yeah.
and
Well,
either that.
I
or
didn't
you
know
get
where
the-
else you could go see it.
It is linked,
Yeah,
so, yeah.
yeah, otherwise, who wants to sit and look through numbers like this, so. When we did our testing and everything came out, everything was working just fine. First releases, we have over 117 contests this election. So I rely on my paper one for
Sure.
things, and when I upload the data is exactly what's on my paper going to their site to whatever they do with it to get it to show up in the graphs and all the pretty stuff. So, somewhere in there, a number, I guess, got transposed with their side of entry of programming. I believe it was a programming issue. And they checked the whole state, made sure this was an anomaly, and it was. So, we have to put
We're
in
the only one, of
Yeah.
course, so.
for this, competing measures. So when I reached out to them, they were all for helping me out and making sure that, you know, everybody understood that our numbers are good. The results are
And
official.
we submitted them correctly to the Secretary of
Yes.
State's office. They're the ones that had transposed it as they put it up on the
Yes.
website.
And I did not check every contest. When I upload, I make sure that the totals come across, that they've got the new total.
Yeah,
And then I check the first race because it's right there that it matches my results. And I'm like, okay, good.
Yeah.
So I said 115 different contests. It don't,
yeah. And of course, it's unfortunate that this one's a very hotly contested
Yeah.
one and close and
so we are gonna make some changes going forward. Prior to the state having a site, we used to put up a PDF. I'm going to go back to putting a PDF up as
Good.
well.
Yeah.
As the state can do what they want. I will upload my numbers like they want me to. But I will have a PDF up. That's what I'm relying on. We will also take the time, as late as it gets, and check each contest each time we do an upload.
I think that's great. Yeah,
So, it'll take some time sometimes. They're just gonna have to
Yeah.
be patient with us when we upload, but I want to catch it as quick as
yeah,
possible.
checks and balances are so important. The only thing I wish is that the Secretary of State's office would have issued the press release rather than we're having to do
We
it.
own it.
Because they are the one, and then their comment inside there said,
Mhm.
you know, that they had made the error, but they didn't issue the press release. We're the ones that ended up doing it. So it looks like,
There
I
will
mean, the
be,
appearance of it is,
I tried to get them to issue it
yeah, that's too bad. Yeah,
and they were either they wanted to do a statewide and I'm like, well, this isn't a statewide thing
yeah,
or us. And I'm like, I want something out there and I want something from you guys.
yeah. I mean, you gotta own it. You made
Yes.
the mistake.
Please, because I'll own it if I made it,
Yeah.
definitely.
Yeah.
So, yeah, so hopefully with some of our checks and balances, we'll catch something. They're putting some stuff into works. I don't know what that is, but they.
Yeah, it would be nice for them to communicate to what they're doing on their end, just so that we have that kind of assurance that, no, it's not gonna happen. Statewide, and-
Watch,
yeah, yeah. You'll have to just double check it.
yeah,
I mean, you know, we've talked about this a lot, but election integrity is super
Oh,
important
man.
to all of us. It's super important to Tracy as the champion and steward of the process. And so, you know, the frustrating part about this is when we do all the things right, the county's systems and our structures and our processes work well. That something like that can still happen.
Yeah.
It still kind of creates this undercurrent of, is the election really secure?
Yeah.
And our election process is flawed.
Yeah.
And it's just unfortunate. So, you know, Tracy and her staff will check on our side. I'm assuming the state's gonna check on their side before we go live. So that we can have a double checks and balance system, but it's unfortunate. And I know it's not easy for staff when you do it right and there's still, you know, innuendo that you did something wrong. So, so good job and to your staff. So,
Yeah.
but we definitely want to work hard
Yeah,
to make sure this
double
doesn't
check.
happen again. So,
Yeah, they said, we'll do what we can on our end.
Mhm.
I know we all got our email from our constituent down south about the concern for this, so I think as long as we know what the motion is moving forward to address the concern so that it doesn't happen again. We know it wasn't within our own abilities or our issues with the count, so.
yeah, we will write something for Patrick as a response, just so he has that. So,
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like we had in the news release, the key points, the votes
were not affected. The certified election results really reflect the voter intent. Certified results are my paper certified results. Theirs are unofficial. We had another contest flip on the last update. And that's why I say it's unofficial until we certify it. And once we certify, then that is it.
Mhm.
Yeah, the discrepancy involved labeling only on their side, so. Yes, we will do our best.
Okay,
what
yeah,
I was doing.
thank you, Tracy. Appreciate you being here. I'm sorry that came down kind of back to you.
Oh, that's, I was on it immediately, trust me. The state, so it's like, how can this happen? So, well, thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
All right, we don't have anything else on our work session, unless anybody has anything to add. Good, all right, 20 minutes. Whoa. The Board of Commissioners, as the governing body of Clatsop County, all county service districts for which this body so acts, and as the Clatsop County Local Contract Review Board is now meeting in regular session. All rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, and liberty and justice for all. I want to welcome everybody here this evening. Clerk of the Board, can we have the roll call, please?
Chair Quila,
Here.
Vice Chair Banks,
Vice Chair Bangs is excused this evening.
Commissioner Wakua,
Here.
Commissioner Webb,
Here?
Commissioner Thompson.
Commissioner Thompson is excused.
Thank you.
All right, we have an amended agenda. We have added item 3A, a proclamation for Tongue Point Job Corps Center, and then we have removed items 11 and 13 from the agenda. So do we have a motion to approve the amended agenda?
I motion to approve the amended agenda.
Second?
All those in favor to approve the amended agenda, all those in favor signify with an aye. Aye. All those opposed? Okay, motion carries. Move on to the proclamation, Tongue Point Job Corps Center. Presenter Dong Boone, County Manager.
Chair Quayla, members of the board, as you are aware, the Job Corps has been in a tenuous position over the last several months with the threat of closure from the Department of Labor, who owns the Tongue Point Job Corps Center, as well as operates it through a contract. There's been community meeting and a lot of discussion with different community leaders in different sectors in the community to rally around the importance of the center. The center is very unique, even in the Job Corps world, has the only maritime program, and it's also a program that's serving, over 300 young adults, and mostly, between the ages of 16 and 24. So we have been coordinating with other local governments to have a master proclamation that we can all consider with our boards, and so this proclamation is in front of your board this evening.
Thank you very much, County Manager. We did hear that they did receive an injunctive relief on the cancellation this afternoon.
That is correct. So
it's good news.
So they have a little bit more of a runway.
Yeah.
Still uncertain, but more of a runway. So,
but it sure is important for us to show our support. Any other comments or questions? All right, do we have a motion?
Okay, I will move the resolution and the order expressing support for Tongue Point Job Corps Center and recognizing its vital role in workforce development and community impact, and authorize the chair to read and then sign the proclamation.
I second.
All right, moved and seconded to approve the resolution order expressing support for Tongue Point Job Corps Center and recognizing its vital role in workforce development and community impacts, and authorize the chair to read then sign the proclamation. All those in favor signify with an aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Okay, motion carries.
in the matter of expressing support for Tongue Point Job Corps Center and recognizing its vital role in workforce development and community impacts. Whereas the Tongue Point Job Corps Center, located in Astoria, Clatsop County, has served as a critical institution for workforce training and youth development since 1964. And whereas the center provides free education and career technical training to young people ages 16 through 24, equipping them with the skills necessary to succeed in a variety of industries, including maritime trades, welding, automotive, construction, and healthcare. And whereas the Tongue Point Job Corps Center not only enhances the lives of its students, but also contributes to the economic vitality of Clatsop County by providing employment, generating over $16 million in economic impact, supporting local businesses, and partnering with community organizations. And whereas the Clatsop County Board of Commissioners recognizes the importance of the Job Corps program in offering life-changing opportunities to underserved and economically disadvantaged youth across diverse communities. And whereas continued federal investment in Job Corps programs, including the Tongue Point Job Corps Center, is essential in maintaining and expanding these services, especially in rural and coastal communities. And whereas the loss of this institution would disproportionately impact at-risk youth, local employers who rely on skilled graduates, and the broader community that benefits from its services. Now, therefore, be it hereby resolved and ordered, Clatsop County hereby expresses its strong support for the Tongue Point Job Corps Center and affirms the center's contributions to the community, workforce development, and youth empowerment. Clatsop County urges state and federal leaders to continue and expand support for the Job Corps program and to recognize the Tongue Point Job Corps Center as a vital component of our region's education and economic infrastructure. A copy of this resolution shall be transmitted to the offices of Oregon's Congressional Delegation and the U.S. Department of Labor. Adopted this 25th day of June, 2025, Clatsop County Board of Commissioners. All right, thank you very much. We'll move on to business from the public. This is an opportunity for anyone to give a 2-minute presentation about any item on the agenda except for public hearings or any topic of county concern that is not on the agenda. Clerk of the board, are there any members of the public signed up to speak remotely?
No, there are not.
All right, are there any members of the public signed up to speak in person?
No, there are not.
All right, we'll go ahead and close business from the public and move on to the consent calendar. Any questions, comments on the consent calendar? Nope. All right, do we have a motion?
A motion to approve the consent calendar?
All right, do we have a second? Second. Moved and seconded to approve the consent calendar as presented. All those in favor signify with an aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Okay, motion carries. Commissioner reports. Commissioner Webb?
Yes, sir. Well, I can report some good news that it appears that the Oregon Coastal Zone Management Advisory Group has been I almost said renovated, reconstituted. And Commissioner Thompson is a delegate from LCDC as their coastal commissioner. And I am the delegate from Clatsop County. We had a good meeting earlier this just last week, and it has been reconstituted by actually passing the staffing of this group from AOC to a private consultant who's actually based on the South Coast, and who has with lots of energy and lots of willingness to speak with one voice. Unfortunately, we have lost the leadership of Representative Dembro, who has been a part of the whole Coastal Caucus efforts. The Coastal Caucus itself has kind of been weakened in recent years. And so I think the OCZM group is interested in kind of stepping in and taking the leadership in that area. So we had a very good meeting, did some strategic planning work. I think one of the nice things that I've seen happen in this group is that over the years, the coastal zone management group federally, this is a piece of federal legislation that created this work. And some states have simply run with it more fully than others. And one of the things I've seen since I've been in Oregon for the last 20, 30 years, is that because of the differences along the coast, there often isn't a lot of unanimity in the group. But I think that is changing. I think that as tourism is moving south along the coast, I think that's a good thing. And so I hope you agree with that, County Council, since you know that part of the coast. But I think we're seeing a lot more unanimity, and there are a lot of common concerns. And this group I like because it has several ports on it. It has a couple of local soil and conservation committees on it. It has several of the cities are interested, and I think it's a group that's really going to be proactive. And I think that's good news. So I look forward to bringing more cool things. The other thing that I was pleased with this past session is that there was a lot of interest. There was a lot of interest in what was going on in the state, and that's for a CZM program. I think that's very healthy. So that's good news. I think that's my good news.
Yeah, thank you, Commissioner Webb. Commissioner Wakula.
Thank you, Chair. I have no updates.
Short and sweet.
Short and sweet.
And I just wanted to say how much I've appreciated the work of Amanda Rapinchuk, our legislative and policy analyst, and of course our county manager as well. Lots of trips to Salem and a lot of communication with CFM advocates, our lobbyists down there, and great testimony on issues of importance in Clatsop County. We might not have got the resolution on all of them that we wanted, but we did make a lot of progress, and certainly the discussion will continue from here on. But it was, I think, as I was mentioning in our work session, it's really nice that Clatsop County is driving a lot of these discussions. We had more of a presence in Salem this year and this session than we ever have. So again, it's a great team, and thanks to everybody that's participated and testified and kept our lobbyists and others informed. And again, Representative Javity and Senator Weber have been right there with us and advocating for Clatsop County every step of the way. So we've been very well served in Salem.
I have no updates.
Thank you. This is going to be a fast meeting. We'll move on to the business agenda. Clatsop Enterprise Zone redesignation application, page 213. County Manager.
Don't we need to do the consent calendar?
We already did. We did. You seconded it. We did it. Okay, County Manager.
Chair, excuse me. Chair Creeler, members of the board, in 2015, the Clatsop Enterprise Zone was established by the City of Astoria, City of Warrenton, the Port of Astoria, and Clatsop County. The Enterprise Zone incentivizes investment in infrastructure and in jobs. And since 2015, there have been 4 enterprise zones that have been approved. The sum of those enterprise zones are $75 million in investment and 135 new jobs. One of the components of the enterprise zone is the requirement that the applicant exceed at 130% of the county average wage when it comes to their compensation for their employees. So that's $60,000, which is closer to a living wage. We are at the 10-year sunset period, so this enterprise zone sunsets on June 30th of this year. There is a process to get redesignation that included consulting with potentially impacted jurisdictions, having a meeting with those jurisdictions, consulting through Kevin Leahy's efforts, who is the zone manager for the enterprise zone. Thank you, Kevin, for all your work. Having meetings with the school district so that they can designate their school support fees. So all of that work has been done. Clatsop County's the final step in this process. We would like to, staff would recommend that your board approve the resolution authorizing the submission of an application to Business Oregon and requesting redesignation of the enterprise zone. I would want to make a note that the boundaries of the original enterprise zone that were approved back in 2015 have been modified. They were modified interimly, but they were modified as part of this redesignation. And that modification was because of the criteria that the state establishes for the enterprise zone, which one of the criteria is that we are at 80% of the median income in the enterprise zone area. And we were above that mark. So between 2015 and 2025, we were above that. And so we had to adjust the boundaries within Astoria. The city was involved, and they approved those modifications. The boundaries can be amended interimly, and there may be some additional amendments that come into the future. But we didn't have any concerns from the other taxing jurisdictions. We do have the school support fees approved by the school districts. And so at this point, we are ready to move forward and submit our application. It'll be submitted to Business Oregon, and then Business Oregon will review it and basically authorize the redesignation. So I don't know if Kevin had anything to add, but you can come on up.
Come on up, you're Kevin. Kevin Leahy, Executive Director.
Thank you, Kevin. Thank you, Chair. No, I think County Manager Boone summarized it well. Last week, I met with the Port Commission. They were the first stop and voted unanimously to redesignate. And Monday evening, I was at the Astoria City Council meeting, same thing, and they voted unanimously. And then last night, the Warrenton City Commission voted unanimously. Very supportive. To Don's point, there's some discussion about maybe some amendments down the road, but with the deadline and where we're at right now, I just really appreciate the partnership that we have with the county and County Manager Boone and the staff, and just getting this through. So those are my comments.
Right, thank you very much, Kevin. Any questions for either Kevin or County Manager? Okay, are we ready for a motion?
I motion to approve the resolution authorizing submission of an application to Business Oregon requesting redesignation of the Clatsop Enterprise Zone.
I second that motion.
Moved and seconded to approve the resolution authorizing the submission of an application to Business Oregon requesting redesignation of the Clatsop Enterprise Zone. All those in favor signify with an aye. Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much. Great work on this. Thank you, Kevin.
Thank you.
Next item is the Fairground Roof Rehabilitation Contract, page 249. Kyle Sharpstein, our Fairgrounds Manager. Welcome.
Thank you. Yes, so the Fairgrounds has been dealing with leaky roof for quite some time. Last fall, early winter, we hired a consultant to come and do an assessment on the entire building and establish what repairs we need to be done. They put together the phase one of the repairs to fit into our budget this year. So phase one is to do the roof on the exhibit hall. Future years, we'll need to do some repairs on the arena as well. So we bid out the project. We received 4 responsive bids, and then we received a 5th bid that was rejected because it didn't meet the specifications of it. The MOU with the county board and the fair board calls for both the fair board and the county board of commissioners to approve improvements over $30,000. So the fair board did review this and approve it already, and we're bringing it to the county board to approve it as well. The lowest bidder came in at Pacific Tech Construction. Their number was still a little bit above our budget. We worked with them to do some value engineering to trim it down to fit into our budget, which amounted to changing the gutters from a stainless gutter to like a coated metal gutter and changing the downspouts. And so we're asking the board to approve the contract with Pacific Tech Construction for $574,430. Another note to add onto this is we do have a grant from Business Oregon for $277,000. We need to use those funds by February. That's part of some previous legislation that got every fairgrounds in the state that 277. They just split it equally, and that was our piece of it. And we're anticipating also getting some energy incentives off the project for the additional insulation that's part of this, so.
Great. That's great. Yeah. No, thank you, Kyle. Any questions?
Yeah, actually, thank you, Chair.
Wakua?
So I know, like, based on our first introduction to this, it was the assessment that came in was significantly over what you originally anticipated.
Yeah.
Going to your bid, these adjustments that were made for the stainless steel gutters to the drip edge that's coated galvanized and the PVC downspouts.
Yeah.
Longevity-wise, is that beneficial? I mean, we're talking such a large amount of money anyways. Cut that little bit. I mean, granted, it obviously brings it closer to what your target is, but, I mean, I'm not a...
Yeah, and
I don't know roofing.
and I had this conversation with our consultant as well, about, you know, why they chose to use the stainless gutters in the first place. And, you know, they basically said, you know, depending on what you can afford, you know, that's like the top of the line, the best that you can get. But what is pretty typical on most buildings is that they do have a coated galvanized or some kind of coated or aluminum material for their gutters. It really was like the premium option, and they said, you know, that's usually one of the first things that agencies or property owners will look at when they need to start tweaking the thing, and they felt that that was a suitable and acceptable provision, because we ran it by them as well. We said, what do you guys think? Is this going to be, are we going to want to do this in the long term? And they said, no, that's usually what's more typical, but the stainless would have been just a step up.
So they were upselling you. Got it. No, I'm happy with that. Thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
Are we ready for a motion?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, I move to approve and authorize the county manager to execute a contract with Pacific Tech Construction Incorporated in the amount of $574,430 for the Clatsop County Fairgrounds Roof Rehabilitation Project.
All right, we have a second?
I second.
Moved and seconded to approve and authorize the county manager to execute a contract with Pacific Tech Construction in the amount of $574,430 for the Clatsop County Fairgrounds Roof Rehabilitation Project. All those in favor signify with an aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay, motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you very
Commissioner.
much, Kyle. Next is a public hearing on ordinance 25-07, Economic Opportunities Analysis, page 296. And Jay Blake, one of our last times to see Jay here in a while.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
This is the continuation of a public hearing on ordinance 25-07, Economic Opportunities Analysis. County Council, may we have the second reading by title only?
This is ordinance number 25-07 in the matter of an ordinance adapting the Clatsop County Economic Opportunities Analysis and incorporating the findings and recommendations into the Clatsop County Goal 9 Economic Development document.
Thank you, County Council. And Jay Blake, Planning Manager. Any additional information?
Mr. Chair, members of the commission, thank you very much for the opportunity to speak this evening. The county board at your June 11th meeting conducted the first reading of this document. This document would become an integral part of your Goal 9 economic development work, and nothing has changed since the last time you saw the document, with one minor exception. The Department of Land Conservation and Development did send us an email saying that they have no comments and have no concerns. So DLCD is not objecting in any way to the document's format or content.
Great. All right, thank you. Jay, any comments, questions? Well, again, fantastic work on this, and we really appreciate that it did a lot of outreach into the community throughout the county, got a lot of input, and again, brought it into something that is going to be workable and usable for us going forward. So really appreciate all you've done, Jay.
Thanks.
And I
Yeah. County Commissioner?
I have a little bit of a history in economic development, and I thought this was a really good project. Well done, and I think it's going to be, I think the coolest thing about it is that it's going to be a nice platform for us for the future. And I think there's just so much good stuff in it. You know, earlier when we were talking about the whole issue of, you know, my first thought was, okay, let's take a look. Let's take a look at this EOA and see what it informs our decision-making, and I think it can. So thank you so much, Jay. This was really good work.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Commissioner. Any other comments? Are we ready for a motion?
I move,
Oh, wait, I'm sorry. I guess I have to go through the
oh yeah,
public hearing.
public, right?
Oh, we have to have a public hearing.
All right. Are there any members of the public signed up to speak remotely?
No, there are not.
All right. Are there any members of the public that signed up to speak in person?
No, there are not.
All right. We'll go ahead and close the public hearing, and now we can have a motion.
I move the board adopt ordinance 2507, approving the Clatsop County Economic Opportunities Analysis and incorporating its findings and recommendations into the Clatsop County Comprehensive Plan Goal 9, Economic Development.
Second.
Moved and seconded that the board adopt ordinance 25-07, approving the Clatsop County Economic Opportunities Analysis and incorporating its findings and recommendations into the Clatsop County Comprehensive Plan Goal 9, Economic Development. All those in favor signify with an aye. Aye. All those opposed? Okay, motion carries.
Thank you very much.
Well, Jay, you're going to be leaving us. I mean, you've left us with a tool that we can be using for our economic future, but I'm very grateful for your time here at Clatsop County and all you've done over the last few years. And I saw that you were skydiving recently.
Yes.
So,
My leap into retirement.
Adventure is.
Yes.
Yeah.
So thank you very much. It's been a pleasure working with you and with the great staff in your community development department.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Happy retirement.
Yes.
Happy and safe retirement.
All right. And we don't have any other items on our agenda, so do we have anything for the good of the order? Okay, we'll go ahead and adjourn. Thank you very much, everyone.